Hi everybody, this is Noelle with Petitti Garden Centers, and we worked on a video about 2 years ago now, and it was about Houseplant RX. And we focused on spider mites, we focused on mealybug, and we focused on aphids, right Taylor? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we focused on those three, and silly me, we totally forgot to mention fungus gnats. So this video is all about fungus gnats, and it's going to be real straightforward and easy. Now, fungus gnats are constantly ever present, okay? They're present outdoors, they're present indoors. The thing about it is over the winter months, we tend to notice them more because we're so focused on our houseplants that it seems like they're all over. So the first thing that I want you to remember with fungus gnats is that if you can keep your watering on the drier side to the point where you're leaving the top inch or two of the soil, the potting soil, letting it go dry, that is going to be a huge help, because the fungus gnats, when they are young, they start out as eggs, and then the eggs obviously hatch into larvae, and that larvae, that tiny little worm, that is sitting right at the top 1 to 2 inches of your potting soil. So if you can dry that soil out, guess what? You dry out the egg, you dry out the larvae, boom, we don't get any adult gnats, and that's really, really good. So that's the first thing you want to consider. And if you've watched my videos before, whenever we talk about watering, especially with houseplants, make sure you have good drainage, make sure you are keeping your watering on the drier side, because plants will always recover better if they are slightly dry versus overly wet. And unfortunately, in the winter, when we're stuck indoors, we tend to nurture a little bit more, overwater, and it's just not healthy for the plants. Here's the other thing you have to keep in mind. Fungus gnats actually enjoy the peat moss that's in potting soil, and they like it when it starts to decompose and break down. They're also feeding on fungi. They're also feeding on algae. So, and they're also feeding on like deteriorating roots, or if you let the leaves drop and fall on top of the potting soil in the pot, they are actually feeding on that debris. So the cleaner you can keep the surface of your pot, you know, removing spent leaves or flowers or whatever is sitting in the pot, that's always going to be better, okay? And again, if you can keep the soil on the drier side, you're going to reduce any type of fungal growth that may be happening. You're going to reduce the rate of decomposition of the peat moss in your potting soil or potting mix, because that's a majority of your potting mixes are going to have peat moss. And then it'll just, again, keep that environment less hospitable to the fungus gnat. So there's two things you can do right away, okay? The next thing is, it's tricky because, again, your fungus gnats go through several life changes. So the adult gnats that you see kind of flying around your pots, you can trap. And it's very easy to do. What you want to use is this houseplant sticky stake or something similar. What you do is you put the sticky trap or sticky card right at the end or right underneath the foliage of your plant, and you just let it do what it's supposed to do, where it's attracting those adult fungus gnats, and especially the females in this case, of course, because they're laying the eggs and so forth, but you're attracting those adult fungus gnats to that yellow sticky trap, and they stick, believe me. So Taylor will do a close-up here, but you'll see adults sticking to it. That's great because you're attracting them away from the plant and from the soil. And once you trap your adults, that means you don't have any egg layers. So that's great. The next thing that I would consider doing is applying something that has to be labeled for fungus gnat control. Okay, so this is mosquito bits, and this is labeled controls fungus gnats as well. So this can be used outdoors for mosquito, obviously, you know, trying to get rid of your mosquitoes and bird baths and things. But this can also be used for fungus gnats. And what you would do, it's a granular product. You would go ahead and sprinkle it on top of the soil surface, and then you'd water it in. Again, be careful, because the whole idea is we're trying to keep this potting soil as dry as possible. So of course, when you're watering, you've got to let that sort of dry from that point. This is BT, and it's BTI. So it's a bacteria, it's a natural occurring bacteria that will take care of the fungus gnat larvae, okay? And BTI, it is Israeliensis strain. There we go. So it's a mouthful. And so specifically, it will take care of the fungus gnat larvae that is in your potting soil, okay? So this is something that you can use to control the larvae. Another thing that you can use that we've mentioned before is your systemic houseplant insect control. This works for a lot of different household insects, but it will also work to control the larvae in the soil. Because it's a systemic, again, folks, it takes a while for it to penetrate the whole plant surface, interior, I should say, not surface. But what's happening here is when you apply this to control the fungus gnat larvae, it's almost instantaneous, because again, you're sprinkling it on the soil, scratching it in, and then watering again. So really with this, you can either use the mosquito bits, or you could use the systemic to control the larvae. You really don't need to use both, okay? So the option's up to you. Another thing that you can do to control adults, if you don't want to put the yellow sticky traps out, is you can use a topical spray. This is eight insect control home and garden. What you need to know always is the active ingredients. So the active ingredient in this spray is sulfur and pyrethrins, okay? This is, again, safe to use indoors, outdoors, and with this topical spray, you are going to have to stay on top of it as far as a more often application to control the adults. Again, fungus gnats aren't really eating your true plant, your growing plant. They're taking care, they want to feed on the detrital material. So sometimes it's hard to spray them and, you know, get good contact on the adult larvae, but you can use this indoors to control. If you see them on the plant, you want to spray the top and the bottom of the leaves. If you were to spray it on the soil surface, I don't think you would get real good control from that. So just keep that in mind. So this would be another product to help take care of some of the adults for you. So again, I really think the key to reducing your fungal gnat problem would be just take care of those cultural issues. Be very careful with watering, especially in winter, you know, keeping plants on the drier side, making sure that soil is drying out 1 to 2 inches, you know, below the surface. If you need to get a water meter or you need to get a green bamboo stake, which I have recommended before, just to see where the moisture level is in the soil, go ahead. And then the next thing is make sure that the soil area is clean, that you don't have leaf detritus and, you know, spent flowers or anything else hanging out down below. That'll really reduce your fungal gnat issues in the first place, okay? So fungus gnats, good luck with it. Enjoy.